So how are you doing today? Doing okay? Perfect. So I just want to keep it simple, fast, and so they can start the debate. I want to appreciate here, everybody come here to do what you need to do. Listen to the candidates, their vision, how they think, their policies, and how they're going to do it in Congress. It's up to the people to understand that we need to be able to understand and rescue, obviously, our country, our district. And I think all these candidates are great candidates. I want to, my friend Eduardo, he's not here. He's from the Hispanic Assembly of North Carolina. He's the other co-sponsor. And obviously, I want to thank everybody. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, but before we get into the questions, we are going to have an opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'd like to invite my father, Pastor Dan Horn, to come up and give us an opening prayer.
Let's pray. Oh, Lord God, we do thank you. We thank you that you are the God who appoints every authority, that they all come from you, they're appointed by you. But yet in this country, you have given us a process by which the authorities are appointed through your will. And so we pray as we listen to these candidates tonight that they speak honestly, clearly, in a way so that the people can judge, and judge in a way that helps decide who would be the best candidate, how our nation should be ruled. We thank you for the mercy that we have received by living in the United States, that we can participate. Lord, we pray that you help us to fulfill our duty. And we pray that you help each one of these candidates to make it clear their vision, their understanding, and the way that they would rule if they were granted that authority. We ask this in your Son's name. Amen.
And my name is Alice Loikta, and I am co-moderating with this fine young gentleman. And we are now going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and please follow with. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and obviously thank everyone for being here tonight. You folks down there in the crowd, and the candidates that we have here. And also thank you very, very much to our hosts and co-hosts. They've been really amazing and have given us the opportunity to be here in such a short period of time. And look, we have another candidate. He was working and flew in here in his truck to get here as soon as he could. So thank you guys for being so patient. I hope you guys did take the opportunity to mingle with the candidates, you know, especially post-COVID. Well, I think we've all forgotten how to people, you know, and yeah, it's a good opportunity to people, you know, when there's technical delays, which we did have. So I know that early voting has started and the candidates are raring to go and meet more constituents at other locations. So we'll try to get this started pretty quickly. And I'm going to let the candidates introduce themselves. And so I guess we'll start out with who are you, where are you from, and what do you do? And hey, you go first, man. You just walked in like a boss, so you go first.
Like I say, my name's Chris Baker. I've lived in this district most of my life. I was born in the district. I grew up in the district. I'm running because of a lot of the things that's going on in Washington. It's like a big dumpster fire that's going on with all the money that we're spending in Ukraine and not taking care of our issues that we have here in our district or in our state and in our country first. What I do for a living is I'm a commercial truck driver. I take out waste from restaurants. I mean, I get to see our district from top to bottom, from the state line of Virginia state line to the South Carolina state line. And people are fed up with not reaching out to the issues of the common person. And that's why I stepped up this election, run for Congress, and put your voice and your concerns in Washington. Like I said, my name is Chris Baker. I grew up in this community. I've got family here in Lee County, Harnett County, Johnston County, and even up in Franklin and Granville County. So if you got any issues, I'm going to take them to Washington for you. I'm not backed by any political action committees or nothing. I'm just a common man running to be your congressman.
And next, Mr. Shu. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Shu. Very nice.
Like a shoebox. I assure you, you'll have no trouble finding my name on the ballot. Now, I don't know if I'm talking to my audience or if I'm talking to a beautiful disco ball up there, because it is quite big and loud. But I'm going to try to train my eyes on you, because I am Kenny Shu, who's for you.
I love it.
And growing up, my entire life, I've been a builder. I run a nonprofit out of Raleigh called Color Us United. We stand up for the basic American principle that people should be treated on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That principle is in danger right now in our schools with the teaching of critical race theory, in our government with the forced hiring of minorities, even less qualified minorities, and in our businesses with these awful DEI trainings and woke trainings that have been going on that my organization, Color Us United, has placed a national leading role in investigating and winning. When American Express raised their incentives so that if you hired more minorities and women, you automatically got a 15% pay raise, we protested that. And I led the charge of over 5,000 employees and stakeholders to fight back and expose those quotas and get them to take steps to rescind it. When the Salvation Army imposed critical race theory trainings upon their own members, asking them to repent for racism, my organization was the organization in charge that said, how are these fine salvationists who are going to the inner cities helping black and brown children, how are they racist? Because they're white? And we were able to get 18,000 donor signatures and get them to rescind that task force for social justice. So I have a record of victory. And the reason why I'm running for Congress is because we need people who are capable of building something back in our country again. We have a generational divide, a black and white divide. We need a unifier. We need someone who can unify people under American principles. Now, when I say that I'm a builder and I've been building my whole life, I'm reminded of another builder, Donald Trump. Now, there are a few differences between me and Donald Trump. I'm shorter. I'm Asian American. But in basic temperament, when I first heard about Donald Trump and about him running, I immediately empathized. And the reason why is because he's a builder. He's a construction worker. That's all I have to know about him. He manages a very large business empire, but he's in the business of building things. And when I see lawyers go after him and try to take out every nook and cranny of his buildings and try to devalue his empire, I'm reminded of what happens when you elect too many lawyers to Congress. When you elect too many lawyers to Congress, they will rip apart each other because their mind is adversarial. And that's okay. We need some people with adversarial minds. But this is your opportunity to elect somebody, Donald Trump and Kenny Hsu, with a building mind, with a mind to build things, with a mind to unify, with a mind to bring back the glory that America has become and will become. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and these guys are like really rare and out of the box. I should have started this out kind of like MAGA Friday style, Monty Python. What's your favorite color and what is your quest? But anyways, next up, Mr. Sharma.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Siddhant Sharma. I'm running here for Congress in District 13. I was born in North Carolina. I'm your most local candidate. Lived in District 13 my entire life. So, I'm gonna just keep it short and simple. I'm an accountant. I'm the best candidate to, help out with this disastrous inflation. I'm out here to lower all your taxes because God knows, what we're seeing at the pump, at the grocery store, everything like that is just ridiculous. Other than that, I'd like to thank you all for coming out here. It is people like you who truly make the difference. I mean, today is a Saturday, and you guys are all here because you care. You guys can be literally anywhere else. And just knowing that everyone like you guys who have come here, it truly makes my day. I know this country will be in a tip-top shape. And I'd like to thank each candidate, all the candidates here, for coming out here. They're here also because they care, they want to get out their ideas, and they want to talk about the solutions, and they want to engage in healthy discourse. This is what a debate is, people. I know I've seen many people on the campaign trail. Sometimes we don't get enough time to speak. But here today, we're going to be able to talk about our solutions, and you guys will be able to see who is the finest person to come to Congress. And I will also like to say, we've had other candidates come here, saying that they would come. They did not come. And I truly believe if they don't come to a debate, they do not deserve your vote. If we are a country based on merit, this is where the best place is to get everything out. And other than that, I'd like to thank you all for coming out here. Let's get on with this debate, and we'll see who's the best person to send to Congress. Other than that, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all for coming.
And Mr. Vondelor.
Good evening. My name is Steve Lure. I want to thank you for coming here tonight. Like Mr. Sharma said, it's a Saturday. You could be doing something else, but you decide to come and listen to the people who will represent you. We are not running because we want to get rich. We are running because we want to hear you with your issues. That is why I am the candidate that is running under the banners of the blue-collar worker. Because when I came here in 1998 with $150 in my pocket, after 25 years living in North Carolina, I know how the decline and the corruption is in Washington, D.C., because we have sent for the last 5 decades rich men to north of Richmond. And we need to stop that. We need to go back to the foundation of this great nation, which was based on our founding fathers. They believed that this nation can be entrusted to you, the people, not to the elite, that they think that they can rule you over. We have elite on the left, elite on the Republican side, but we need to make sure now that the global elite will not take over our greatest nation. They are the ones that they are running our country right now. They are putting our people into wars. And that is why I am running. I am running not because of me. I am running for my legacy, my children, which you saw them that they came with me tonight. As you have children and grandchildren, that's your legacy that you will leave behind. And we need to protect them. Like Ronald Reagan said, we don't pass through the veins to the next generation. We need to teach them. And that is why we need to make sure that the people of the 13th district choose a candidate that is going to represent you and it's going to fight in D.C. to the elite, both sides of the elite. I am the candidate that is going to tell them straight up when they are being paid by the super PACs. And they have the audacity to come to the people and ask for money for their own campaigns. Where are they? You only see these fine men here. But the rich ones, they didn't show up. The ones with millions in their war chest didn't show up. And I know they are listening. And I know they are watching. You guys didn't show up. You don't deserve the people's vote. Remember that. All of you, Fred Von Cannon, Brad Knott, Kelly Daughtry, you didn't show up. You had the most
Mr.
money
Von
here.
Lohr,
Thank you.
those candidates are not present to defend themselves, and I'd really like for you to refrain from addressing them. They don't have the opportunity to respond. I do know that some of the candidates that did not show up had prior engagements. One, including McConkey, had work, just like Mr. Baker. McConkey was scheduled to work in the ER. That's why he's not here. Knott is ill and is trying not to get his constituents sick or the other folks that he would share the stage with, etc. So we're going to refrain from attacking candidates, especially the ones who are not present here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dellinger.
Of course, the best for last, right? My name is Marcus Dellinger. I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives in District 13. I'm born and raised in North Carolina, and I live right in downtown Wendell. I'm running because I think out of all of the issues that we face, the number one issue is the rot and corruption caused by the administrative state in our government. Thomas Jefferson once said, "When a republic is corrupted, there is no possibility of remedying any of the growing evils but by removing the corruption and restoring its lost principles. Every other action is either useless or a new evil." I stand before you as a registered Republican. I voted Republican down the ballot my entire life, but Republicans have been in charge of the House for over a year now, and our border is still open. We have 100,000 people dying from fentanyl every year, dying in the streets. We're sending hundreds of billions of dollars overseas, Ukraine, Israel, now all of this stuff that's going on in the Middle East. We had, about a month ago, 2 Navy SEALs were killed in an operation during the Red Sea. We lost 3 more, I believe it was in Syria, because Iran is striking our bases. And just on Sunday, during the Super Bowl, the Senate, after they caused this huge, huge commotion about, the border bill, which was really not a border bill at all, that did not pass. It was dead on arrival in the House. So once that happened, then they filibustered for 5 days, I believe it was, and they passed a $95 billion bill on Sunday evening during the Super Bowl when everybody else was, well, for the most part, nobody was paying attention. And hopefully it doesn't pass through the House, but that's $60 billion for Ukraine, roughly $14 billion for Israel, and they did throw some money in for Taiwan as well. So we have all of these issues, and it is the Republicans and the Democrats. And so if we do not fight the corruption and the administrative state caused by a global elite, we will never resolve any of these issues because we literally just saw it play out last week. So if elected, my number one goal will be to fight corruption and expose as much of it as I possibly can. Again, thank you.
All right, very nice. Since we're getting all serious out the gate and are addressing corruption, I think that's kind of the major theme that you guys are flowing with. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question of, what is your definition of a swamp creature, and how would you defend yourself against becoming one? I want you all to answer, so
Swamp creature would be.
There we go.
Anybody, just like I stated a few minutes ago, this is not an issue of party anymore at this point. It's not. Like, again, we're all here, I assume everybody here is Republicans, but again, look what they've done over this past year. It seems like it blows my mind sometimes to see some of the things that come out. And even, Speaker Johnson, I've been sort of disappointed with some of the decisions that he's made. So, again, getting back to what a swamp creature is, it is, a unelected or elected Republican or Democrat who very clearly chooses, their own interests rather than the priorities and the interests and the welfare of the people in the United States and who they are elected to represent.
How would you prevent yourself from being a swamp creature?
I don't care about money. I don't care about red carpets and flashy stuff. Like, I'm pissed, truly. Sorry, I may be a little rough, but I'm angry. And you look around at all of these people, and they're taking money and benefits for their own interest. And I think it's kind of dumb because, honestly, you could take all of the money that you want, but our republic is close to falling with all of the money that we're printing. If you look at the Roman Empire, right, there's a lot of similarities to what's happened there. So, for me, it's not about, the glitz and the glam, because at the end of the day, even if you take it, we might not even have a country to enjoy it in anymore. And so that's how I would, I'm not interested in any of the things. I think fighting corruption is the number one thing that we need to focus on.
All right, and I'm going to repeat the question because thank you for the assist out there, but the question is, what is your definition of a swamp creature, and how would you defend yourself against becoming one?
Well, a swamp creature is one that runs under the banners of the people's candidate, and when they start receiving money from super PACs, they go to Washington and they start doing what their masters told them what to do. That's a swamp creature. If I am running on my own without any super PAC, I can assure you that I will not become a swamp creature, because I am fighting the swamp creatures as of today. This is not for today. Since 2018, when I ran against David Price, who was an elite Democrat swamp creature in Congress for 30 years, I decided to go against him because the will of the people was not being represented back then. 2018, we are 2024, and we still have new swamp creatures. They come and they go. It is not the congressman or the senator. It's the elite behind them who create the swamp creatures. And I promise you, I will not become a swamp creature because I detest them. Thank you.
All right, and I'm going to repeat it every time just to be fair. So, what is your definition of a swamp creature, and how would you defend yourself against becoming one?
So, swamp creature to me is the Democratic Party and rhinos. And we got about 100 rhinos right now in Congress right now. I got to say one thing. We have the Freedom Caucus, and God bless them. They have stood rock strong on all issues. And those are some good guys in Congress, and it's a caucus I intend to be with if I were to get elected in there. the best definition of a swamp creature is to look at who they're funded by. Look at their FEC filings. Look at how much money they've been spending, and look at their super PACs that fund them. You know, when you start looking at FEC filings, you know, $500 is a lot of money. $1,000 is a lot of money. The money keeps increasing. If I were to ask you guys right now, hey, can I get $500 right now? You guys look at me as if I was crazy right now. For somebody to give any person even $500,000, that's how you know they're gonna do their bidding. They're not coming for you, they don't care about you. So look where the money is. Follow the money trail, you'll find out who they really answer to. How I pledge to not be a swamp creature, I'm gonna tell you like this. I am donating the salary. I'm not going to Washington to get rich or anything. I do not accept any donations from anybody. You can go on my website, if you press that button on donate, it'll say, sorry, I don't accept donations. I don't believe in money. I don't believe it should have any say in politics, because at the end of the day, you guys are the people I answer to. You guys are the ones who care, and I'm to do what you guys tell me to do coming here into Congress. I cannot stand corruption. We have seen too much of it, and that is something I will not tolerate in Washington. That's why I intend to be on the Judiciary Committee and the Ethics Committee as well. Because I cannot stand when I see other people in Congress do bills and they get stalled forever, and we have these ridiculous continuing resolutions. That stuff has got to stop, and I want to start amending the House rules to where if bills stay in there for longer, the committee chairs and everything, they'll start being held responsible and held accountable for this stuff. Corruption has got to stop, and that is our biggest plague right now here in America, and I vow to stop all that. Thank you very much.
All right, so what is the definition of a swamp creature, and how would you defend yourself against becoming one?
I thought you were going to ask me for what my favorite color is.
Oh, well, you can answer that too. What is your favorite color?
Black. It's black.
Okay.
And then it's orange. The swamp creature, the definition of a swamp creature is somebody who is too timid to directly engage with the voters, and so relies on proxy groups in Washington to help him make decisions. Proxy groups, large nonprofits, the NAACP on the Democrat side, on the Republican side, you know, things like Club for Growth. These people who claim that they're opinion makers but are not actually connected with the people. That's what a swamp creature is. That's what you should know. I've spent time in Washington, just enough time to learn that I don't want to be in Washington unless I'm going out there to change Washington. I am a policy person in my mind. I am a math major. I'm a person who respects policy. I'm a person who cares about policy. But every time I think of a policy that I want to accomplish, do you know what I do? I test it with the voters. Do you know how I test it with the voters? I go door to door and I talk with my constituents. And I have done that. Me and my hardworking team have done that thousands and thousands of times this campaign cycle. Here in Lee County, before I came to this debate, I spent 4 hours knocking on your doors. Some of you I even recognize who are here. Thank you so much for coming. And not just me. Enough people believe in me that they're willing to take their Saturday mornings and knock on doors for me too. And some of them are here today. And I can't thank you enough. And I can't appreciate you enough. Because they don't just believe in my policy positions. Everybody has policy positions. But they believe in the level of effort and detail and hard work and sweat that I take to get to where I get. Because I directly interact with the voters. And I will go to every event that you guys organize faithfully on my behalf, such as this one. This beautiful place must have taken you guys hours of preparation to make this. You wouldn't do this if you weren't patriotic. Not just the local Republican clubs, although they are important and I go to them, but grassroots and organized events, because I want to hear your opinion. That's where I come from. That's how I will avoid being a swamp creature, and that's how I will serve you. Thank you.
All right, so what's your definition of a swamp creature, and how will you defend yourself against becoming one?
A swamp creature is pretty much anybody that takes an oath to represent people. And when they take that oath, it's a very personal thing that we as voters elect that person to be in a position to represent people. And when you're in office or in power and under oath, such as the DAs that have attacked Donald J. Trump, the judges that have gone against the Constitution and not allowing certain evidence in a court of law, those are swamp creatures. They do not protect or adhere to the oath that they swore to protect people. If I was in Washington to help protect myself and becoming a swamp creature is go back to what the Lord says. Go to the Bible, because that's what keeps us grounded here in this world. So, like I say, the Lord would be with me in trying to make decisions, right or wrong. I will stand up against the left and the ones that are swamp creatures on the right, but the Lord is the person that I've got to answer to at the end of the day when I make decisions.
All right, thank you guys, and I'm going to not hog the podium over here. Stephen Horn is, again, an independent journalist, and that's one topic that's near and dear to my heart is having a free and independent press, and I think the interwebs has been a boon to helping that. He's been through quite a journey himself, and I definitely want you guys to hear some questions from him, so I'm going to pass a couple to him, and I'll be back with my crazy questions after he, yeah.
Okay, and I did get a note from the videographer, if you can make sure not moving the mic around too much when you are not speaking, just so you don't get any noise. Yeah. We want people watching online or watching later to be able to, hear all your answers. So, following along the concept of the swamp, my question is, do you believe in the concept of the deep state, the idea that unelected bureaucrats or civil servants wield an inordinate amount of power in Washington? If so, how will you work to implement the interests of the citizens in the face of this opposition? Yes, Mr. Show.
Of course I do. Ronald Reagan said the closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program. The deep state exists. It is a bureaucracy. We call that the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy compounds the bureaucracy. Bureaucrats have to create jobs for themselves, and then they have to justify their own creation. This is why DEI exists, by the way. Why do you have DEI officers in Lee County schools? Why do you have DEI officers in businesses? Because somebody decided, we need to do compliance here. And so they create a DEI program. And that DEI program serves no purpose except to perpetuate its self-existence. And in this case, there's racism in the schools. We have to combat racism, so we have to create a DEI officer. And then that person gets paid a $100,000 salary to do absolutely nothing except to create more of the racism narrative. But I would extend that analogy to most federal government programs that are not accountable directly to the people. So the president has control of the secretaries. He can appoint the secretary, so at least there's some appointment to the president. But under all of those secretaries are legions of staff at the DOD, the DOE, the DOJ. And their job in Northern Virginia is solely to perpetuate their own existence. How hard is it, even if we gave a public mandate to the federal government to dole out funds for schools? Let's say we passed a $190 billion authorization for schools, which we did during the pandemic. It was called the Pandemic ESSER Relief Funding. you should just be able to just click a button and then the money would just go directly to the schools, and there should be no administrators or middlemen in between. Instead, you have 10% of that money going to the administrators who are literally in charge of giving out the money. It is not that hard to give out money, guys. That is what the deep state is. And then worse yet, when you tie in the fact that some of these people actually have agendas and that they are not elected, but they are treated as if they're a self-perpetuating existence, that's when you get the deep state, and that is what is hurting our country right now.
Mr. Sharma?
Did we get repeated the question and everything?
Yes. So the question is, do you believe in the deep state? And if so, how you work to implement the interests of the citizens in the face of this opposition?
So yes, the deep state is very real. I mean, we've seen it in real time. We've seen exactly what's happening to President Trump right now, going throughout all state, various local levels, his criminal prosecutions, Colorado, Maine, many states trying to take him off the ballot and everything. This is the deep state here at work. We just saw what happened when the judge, his civil trial in New York, ruled against him and says he has to pay, $300-something million, can't do business in New York, everything like that. Didn't give him a trial with a jury, things like that. We're seeing this right now in real time. And if our founding fathers saw this, they would be absolutely devastated right now. This is something that should not be happening, and this is something, the deep state is very, very, very real. Coming back to my previous answer on the last question, lots of Democrats, they are the deep state. Even in our own Republican Party, that is the deep state. So the best way to combat this, we also have it in our bureaucratic agencies, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Education, the IRS, and the Department of Justice. It is all seeming now that whoever is becoming in charge of the presidency is essentially creating a whole new leadership in these bureaucracies. Coming here with the Environmental Protection Agency, they can come take your house if they want to start building anything around there or saying that, okay, this is violating Mother Nature and everything like that, or sea otters or sea turtles, anything like that. They can come there, stop you from building a home, anything like that. They can seize your home, everything like that. It is becoming devastating. Luckily, our Supreme Court has been stopping that now in many environmental cases now. They've been ruling that the people have the power, they can come there and do everything. And I'd like to say, God bless Trump for making our Supreme Court conservative with 6-3. They are putting a big stop to that. There is many things Congress can do as well also. Me serving on the Judiciary Committee and the Ethics Committee. We can hold these people accountable. And you're looking right now, why isn't Congress doing this? This is the work of the deep state? Absolutely. Me coming into Congress, I want to stop all of that. The wasteful funding is the #1 biggest issue on what they run on. If they don't have any money, they can't operate on it. Me serving on the Appropriations Committee can stop that. The Budget Committee, I can stop that. When they don't have any funding, they essentially cease to exist. Remember this, every day this government would be shut down or these departments were shut down is the day you all have your rights back. We have seen every single agency happen and they've all been failures. They only essentially exist for themselves. Me coming into Congress, holding them accountable, that is precisely what I intend to do. Impeachments all the way, seeing what happened with January 6 people, these prosecutors, they have got to be impeached. Coming there into Congress day one, that is exactly what I intend to do. Open up a real investigative committee, have these people impeached and held accountable, and if so, federal charges. We've seen our January 6 people have died in their cells. This is getting ridiculous, people. And if they can do it to President Trump, if they can do it for them, they can absolutely do it to you. And that's the next thing. They're going to start doing it. They're going to start coming for your guns. They're going to start coming for your Bibles. That's something, being growing up in North Carolina, those are staples to live in this state. And I'm not going to let it happen. I intend to hold them all accountable. Impeachment all the way. Ethics complaints. We got to get these people out of office and defund these agencies all 100 steps of the way.
And
So we're going to answer
No.
the questions?
Yep, I can, if any of you want to answer the question, I can repeat it if necessary.
Please do.
Yes, so the question is, do you believe in the deep state, the idea that unelected bureaucrats or civil servants wield an inordinate amount of power in Washington? And if so, how you work to implement the interests of the citizens in the face of this opposition.
So yes, I think if anybody, well, there is a deep state for sure. And as I said in my previous answer, it is not a party problem. And it's not just in the elected representatives either. This has touched every branch and organization within, the umbrella of the government. This is in the military, Department of Education, Department of Justice, DOD. I mean, you just go down the list. And it is, as Kenny said, just an army, thousands and thousands of people whose jobs are questionable, I'll put it that way. And I think that, as Sid said, the way to do this, it's all about the money. So since early 1990, we have been running every year on a continuing resolution. And that was a huge big deal just a couple of months ago, and I think it's on the 15th of March. They're going to have to debate more spending. But we've been run for almost 30 years on a continuing resolution, which just means that whatever the budget of the previous year was, they pass everything exactly the same with a 7 to 8% increase for inflation. Every year, just rubber stamp. They don't look at they don't look at anything. They just continue the resolution. So how you stop that is, number one, you cannot pass continuing resolutions anymore. You need single subject spending bills, which is a huge one. Single subject spending bills, so that everybody, no matter, you don't need, to sort through 10,000 pages of lawyer speak. When a single subject spending bill comes up, everybody will be able to know exactly how much money is going where, who it's going to, and then I think on the back end of that, after that money is allocated, we need to conduct audits of congressional spending. Like, I've never understood why there is not an audit of congressional spending. That's like a cornerstone in business. You want to make sure that when you allocate money somewhere, that number one is going where it's supposed to be going, and that it is getting used for what it's supposed to be used for. And when they allocate these, trillions of dollars, spending bills, which just by the way, one of my favorite, when we talk about billions and trillions, I think we've kind of been, those numbers have been whitewashed. So my favorite example of when we talk about $1 trillion, so 1 trillion seconds is roughly equivalent to 32,000 years. So the magnitude of the spending that we're talking about is, mind-blowing. So we need to audit it. When we allocate money, we need to make sure that every dollar that is allocated goes where it's supposed to go. It's not funneled through, NGOs, non-government organizations, and ends up in people's pockets, which is really the way that they do it now, or, in the defense industry. That's a big one right now. So yeah, I think single subject spending bills and congressional audits every year are the way to stop the deep state. Thank you.
Okay. Same question. Do you believe in the deep state? And if so, how you work to implement the interests of the citizens in the face of this opposition?
So yes, I believe in the deep state. We can see that's basically the elite I was talking about before. It's not the Republican elite and the Democrat elite. We have the global elite that we need to worry about. Like Marcus said, the global elite are trying to make us to go into war with Russia. Why? Because they are making money out of the weapons. So that's why we need to make sure, like Marcus said, we need to make audits on all the money that is going on these spending bills. Like, for example, the bill that was sent to Ukraine. Where is the money going? Is it going to the refugees? Is it going to the victims? Is it going to weapons? Where is it going? Well, some of them, the bureaucrats in Ukraine, receive that money and they bought mansions. Or they went on a shopping spree. When we, the people, we are asking Congress, why are they sending this money to them? They want to stop the people asking for it. It is our people, it is our money, it is your money, and that's why we need to stop it. So the deep state is real, it is part of the elite in America, it is part of the elite, global elite. And the way that we need to fight that is to stop sending rich men to north of Richmond. That's why I will always say that. Thank you.
Okay, and once again, the question is, do you believe in the deep state? And if so, how will you work to implement the interests of the citizens in the face of this opposition?
I do believe that there is a deep state. The best example of that has come to fruition is look at the Biden administration versus the Trump right now. We have rules for thee, but not for me type of attitude when it comes down to Democrats versus Republicans. For example, with Donald J. Trump and Biden, they both were accused publicly of having classified documents at their residence. One had criminal charges, the other did not. Rules for thee, not for me, has got to go. And the deep state is pushing stuff like this. During the Obama administration, Edward Snowden was attacked for telling the truth, being transparent. The deep state was behind a lot of that. So by trying to get to attack that is follow leaders like we had this past summer, which was Dan Bishop and Jim Jordan on the Judiciary Committee, brought Christopher Wray, the FBI director, into a committee and started asking questions with why our own federal programs, such as the FBI, is monitoring Republicans that are attending the January 6th election that we've had a big issue. We set up committees, so bringing the key players and why some of our intelligence agencies are attacking everyday citizens is how we fight that, the deep state, because there's the deep state on both sides on this. So my thing would be to follow the leadership styles of a Dan Bishop or a Jim Jordan. Ask the tough questions, protect the people, and know rules for thee and not for me, especially when you're under oath to protect people.
All right, and I love the fact that they've been able to free form and spend their time answering questions. But we have a lot of questions that we formulated that hit other topics that we've all heard that constituents are interested in. So we have our timekeeper over here, which is Bob Quilty, and he's gonna signify somehow, smoke signals when you guys are getting short. We're gonna do 3 minutes. We were gonna do 2, but since it's such an intimate crowd, you get a little extra time, so there's an advantage there. I'm gonna hand it back to Horn because he's groovy and doing a great job.
Thank you. Okay. For the next question, members of Congress and their families are remarkably successful at trading stocks, far outperforming the market average. Would you support a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks, and would you personally commit not to engage in this practice? Mr. Baker.
I would 100% support a ban because even we, as previous administrations, have brought sports figures into congressional hearings saying that they can't bet on their own sports games. So why should we have elected officials betting on winners and losers in their capacity of representing the people? So I would support a ban.
Okay, and I'll repeat the question. Would you support a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks, and would you personally commit not to engage in this practice? Mr. Shu.
I wouldn't. What I would support is what everything that Americans can do, congressmen should be able to do. If you're a private citizen, you can trade stocks. If you're a congressman, you can trade stocks. Now, what I would support is a transparency calculator whereby You can see the stocks that Congressional people are trading in, and if you'd like to, you could probably trade on the same ticker as them. And then that way, if you feel that they're getting rich off of these kinds of things, you can get rich too. So go make your bets. I'm not in Washington yet, so I'll be sure to inform you from the other side if congressmen are engaging in dubious insider trading. That's definitely prohibited by the SEC for sure.
Okay, and once again, would you support a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks, and would you personally commit to not engage in this practice? Mr. Sharma.
Yes, I would absolutely support a ban. Not only would I support the issue, I'd file the bill myself. We have seen too many congressmen and congresswomen get rich. You can take a look at Nancy Pelosi. I mean, you can take a look at the whole spectrum. Now, of course, there is no real way to actually catch them in insider trading. That's because they cover up their tracks. The best way to stop that, for at least a person sitting in government office, is to stop them from trading stocks, period. Now, if they have family who wants to do it, that's a separate matter. But when you start looking at the whole goals of what insider trading is, congressmen, their salary is what? $174,000. When you start seeing them start getting millions and millions, whether that's through donations, through insider trading, you can start seeing where everything is all coming to and who they're all being funded by. Insider trading is just another way of being funded by super PACs and everything like that. That stuff has absolutely got to stop. Because I can promise you this, if they're not doing any trading or doing any type of super PACs or anything, they're not going to be in office. That gives you, or rather the opportunity, for people to start listening to you, the people. That's why I don't want to trade stocks in Congress. That's why I don't even want to accept a salary, anything like that. You won't catch my name in none of that. That's why I believe there should be no stock trading or anything like that for any congressmen. I know Congressman Eli Crane of Arizona. He is very vocal about this issue. He is a member also of the Freedom Caucus, and he is staunch on this one issue, and I intend to be on the forefront of introducing legislation to prevent all this stuff from happening. Because at the end of the day, we represent all of y'all. And we need to stop representing our special interest groups, our donors, anything like that. No, we represent you, the people, and it needs to stay like that. That's my answer on that.
Okay. Once again, the question is, would you support a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks, and will you personally commit to not engage in this practice?
Yes, I will put a ban to insider trading, because if you're a public servant, you are not supposed to get rich going to Washington to represent you. That's something that I do not condone. We have Nancy Pelosi as a great example, and we have also some Republicans that they have been doing the same. It is not fair to you why they have inside information when they are receiving a paycheck from we the people, and now they are making more money. So I will put this ban on that, and I will not engage into insider trading when I am in office representing you, the people. That's my take.
Okay. And once again, would you support a ban on members of Congress trading individual stocks, and would you personally commit to not engage in this practice?
Yes, I would support a trading ban, and yes, I would not trade while in Congress. I think Sid said it. I would support a bill for any congressman sitting, especially on a committee. Like Nancy Pelosi, she seems to be the best example, since I think she's worth about $124 million. When you sit on a specific committee, you are given very, maybe even classified information. So we really need to watch people who are sitting on committees, number one. I mean, there should be a complete ban, but we really need to keep an eye on them. And as Sid said, the thing that we need a lot more transparency on, going back to Nancy Pelosi, is their spouses, their kids. We can stop and support a bill to prevent people in Congress not trading, but that doesn't mean that they can't literally just give that information to a spouse, a cousin, whatever the case may be. So we need a lot more transparency about the members' family as well. And I know we would have to figure out exactly how to do that, but we still need to be very careful, particularly with people who sit on committees. And yes, that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, and for the next question along these same lines, does the intelligence community have an outsized influence on members of Congress? And how will you avoid being the subject of compromat or blackmail? Mr. Dellinger.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think you can read declassified documents from both the FBI and the CIA, and they, in black and white, openly stated that they have had information on members of Congress. And I think it was actually just a couple of weeks ago with this border bill, I believe it was Jim Jordan, he was on a podcast. Anyways, he just said straight up that there is people who are compromised in Congress by intelligence agencies. And I think, truthfully, the best way to prevent yourself from having blackmail is just don't do anything stupid, right? Like if you don't have you're not doing anything dirty, they're not going to have any dirt on you. And it's as simple as that, right? Just keep your nose clean. Don't insider trading or taking money or anything like that. And it's just as simple as that. Thank you.
Mr. Sho, would you like me to restate the question?
Sure, why not?
So the question is, does the intelligence community have an outsized influence on members of Congress? And how will you avoid being the subject of compromat or blackmail?
Does the intelligence... Well, I think that the bigger threat, besides from the intelligence community, comes from members of the establishment itself. I am talking the party establishment or certain individuals, rich individuals who think that they want to control the state. I think about Carrie Lake. I think about how, she was able to record a phone call of somebody literally trying to bribe her to not run for Senate. I can see that there are many, many people out there who receive such calls. I've received calls to the extent of, Kenny Shue, if you run, you're not, not only you're not going to win, you're going to lose everything, blah, 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 or we're not going to support you. And they think that should be there's just such an arrogance that they think that they alone and their opinion alone somehow determines my destiny. Okay, so I'm not going to get a few $100 from you, but that's not going to deter me in my decision to represent the people. So people need to be aware of these pressure games. If I have kept my nose clean, and I'm sure Marcus does as well. He even looks clean, to be honest. I've kept my nose clean. There should be nothing that prevents me from running. There should be nothing. Nobody should say, Kenny Shue, you shouldn't run. And look at what has happened since I started running. So many people have come out and supported me. I have more volunteers than any other candidate. I have people in every county advocating for me. I have people who have donated to me faithfully so much that I'm able to run TV ads. And I'm so excited to see that. And that would not have happened if I listened to some of those people who said, Kenny, don't run.
Okay, and the question is, would you support, sorry, wrong question. The question is, does the intelligence community have an outsized influence on members of Congress, and how will you avoid being the subject of compromat or blackmail?
Yes, and we go back to the elites. The elites are behind the intelligence community, which are blackmailing the candidates, or they are blackmailing the current congressmen and senators. But if you are a man or a woman who is in public service and you are clean, you don't have any dirt, they cannot do anything to you. The problem is that the elite also set traps to these people, and they fall for it. Madison Cawthorn said it before, that he was invited to sex parties by the elites. They sent beautiful girls to these young congressmen to try to get them involved into actions, and then they will get blackmail. Not only congressmen, we have stories here in North Carolina of people that run for office and someone set them up. And that person fell for it, he didn't think, and now he is in big trouble. So the only way that you can do that is, like Marcus said, you keep your nose clean, you keep your zipper up, and you don't do stupid stuff, because you have to be an honorable man that is going to represent you. I may say some things out loud, but I will promise you, I've never had to use anything with my nose, and my zipper is always up. So, because I want to give a good impression to my children. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, and the question is, does the intelligence community have an outsized influence on members of Congress, and how you avoid being the subject of compromat or blackmail? Mr. Sharma.
So I definitely will say the intelligence community definitely does keep their tabs open. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I will more than likely be the subject since I intend to fight them all. Look at President Trump. Look at everything he's done. He has been great in everything. In 2016, nobody would believe he was going to be president. Look at all the wonderful things he did, starting with the Supreme Court, the Tax Cuts on Jobs Act. He brought power back to the people. We got Soleimani. We got Baghdadi. You don't even hear of ISIS anymore. He did all these great things, and now look at what's happening with him. The deep state wants to come after him. What do? You fight like hell. That's what I intend to do. No matter what happens, for doing the right thing, they want to come at you. Just like as Steve said, we had a young representative here in North Carolina. His name was Madison Cawthorn, over there from the 11th District. What did he do? He started calling out everybody. Started saying, this is corrupt right here, this is wrong right here, everything was wrong. We can look at George Santos as well. He started calling out all the chairs, everything of committees. These people made them all look bad. And what happened to them? They wanted to boot them out of office. What are they doing still? They're still fighting on the sidelines to this day. So it seems like when you do the right things, they want to come after you. Do I expect anything to happen? Absolutely. What do I intend to do? I intend to fight like hell. I intend to be on the Judiciary Committee and the Ethics Committee to hold all this stuff here accountable. Impeachments, everything like that. They want to come for me, they're going to have to fight. And I intend to tell them, bring it on.
Mr. Baker, does the intelligence community have an outsized influence on members of Congress, and how you avoid being the subject of compromat or blackmail?
Before being a truck driver, I've worked about 10 years for the state as a IT solutions analyst. So you see a lot of technology that goes on with that can be used with the surveillance with the intelligence community. Are we talking about the private intelligence community, or are we talking about governmental weaponization as well? Because we got a lot of private companies that have a lot of data with cell phones, with video, that would need to be monitored and regulated to make sure that our privacy as Americans is protected and not used against us as well. So my IT background would be a very beneficial, sitting on a committee, fighting for your individual liberties, but also being a congressional person with being swayed. I would go back to what I first talked about. Put your faith in the Bible and the Lord, and He will guide me and keep me grounded as a person. I do not intend on being in Washington when I'm not working. I'm from the district. I want to come back home as soon as I'm done fighting for your values and what you need done. Being a former state employee, that's what I do. I work for you and come home and, like I say, come and hear your concerns. I do not intend to be bribed or anything. I'm open, I'm transparent, that's who I am. Truck drivers, we've got a job to do, we do it. Yeah, that would be about it.
Okay, and one final question along these lines before I turn it back over to Alice for a few of her questions. So for the sake of transparency, I'm going to go down the line, starting with Mr. Dellinger. Have you ever been arrested, charged, or convicted of any misdemeanor or felony? And if so, could you explain what happened and what you would say to anyone concerned about that?
Yes, I actually got a reckless driving charge one time. It was graduation weekend in Wilmington. I was with my best friend, my mother, and my friend's mother. And we went to dinner. I had 3 Jack and Cokes. My friend lived on campus. And I decided, well, he lived on campus, like the off-campus living, but on campus, right? So when we left, we went to the beach as it was graduation weekend. We hung out there for a little while. On the drive back, I cut through a college campus, UNCW, and was pulled over by a campus police officer. In the state of North Carolina, the legal limit is .08. I blew .08. The charge was then dropped to reckless driving, and that's all that's on my record. So, yes, unfortunately, I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Von Lohr?
Yes, the same thing like Marcus. I forgot to pay a ticket in western part of North Carolina. So when I was, after 3 months, I was arrested because I had an expired tag. They ran the license and they said, you haven't paid a ticket. So I got arrested for not paying the ticket.
Okay, Mr. Sharma?
Yes, I have. When I was 17 years old, I got caught with a misdemeanor possession of marijuana. It's no longer now on my record, but no, it absolutely did happen. Of course, I was young, but other than that, no, it's been expunged off my record. Pretty much that.
Really? Because when I looked at your record, I also saw multiple felonies, including probation violation and multiple instances of theft of firearms. So are you denying that those were plea deals that you are convicted on?
No, there are no plea deals. Got to quit it.
Okay.
Paperwork, I'd be more than happy to provide.
I mean, I have looked it up in the e-courts, but yes, you can provide that paperwork. Mr. Shu?
No.
Mr. Baker?
Repeat the question.
So, so yes, for the sake of transparency, have you ever been arrested, charged, or convicted with any misdemeanor or felony?
Arrested, yes. Pending charges, yes, for 3 years. I have ran a Senate campaign in 2022 in Eastern Wake. I have tried to fight the charge through the courts as running a political campaign this last 2022 election cycle. So everything I see Trump going through in the courts, I've tried to plead not guilty for 3 years. They said that I was incompetent to run. They said that I was incompetent to stand trial, just like Joe Biden. I was running a campaign for state Senate, so I'm competent enough to run for state Senate. So that's a lot of the issues that I'm seeing Trump go through right now. And here's what the charge is. I spent 110 days in jail, fighting for my innocence. I have not been convicted of any crime. Never. Not even a speeding ticket, not a stoplight ticket. I've never been convicted of any crime. But for 3 years, I have fought the justice system and its corruption, its lack of transparency, the way they're treating Donald Trump. And if you elect me to Congress, I'll be Trump's probably right-hand man in trying to fight for people. On the charging document, it says, felony stalking for sending a Facebook request. I've been accused of that. I've tried to say not guilty. I've got court on Tuesday, and the fake news does not even want to report it. I have emailed the news agencies, WRL, ABC 11. They do not even want to run this story. So, like I say, I'm open and transparent. I've been transparent on my campaign Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. So, like I say, I've got two pending charges.
Okay, and over to Alice.
Well, I guess we've proven that everyone on this stage is a human being, and we've all experienced some aspect of the abuse of authority, and that would include myself. I ended up with some false accusations and was charged with cyber stalking for doing some Google searches on publicly available information online. So that didn't fly, so that got dropped. So nice to be with you, boys. So, and this is a soda, by the way. I just didn't want to advertise for the brand. So here's our sheriff here in Lee County, Estes. He does a great job. We really appreciate our law enforcement here locally, and you know they're a very necessary part of our system. And you know we need those folks, that and our first responders. Anyway, so I'm going to do something fun, and in this regard, it's kind of like a MAGA Friday moment. You guys are going to be allowed to answer all at once. Okay, it's going to be like a voice vote or, you know, free association. I want you to complete this sentence. First thing that comes to your mind. Abolish the...
Federal Reserve. IRS. DPA. I was going to say police, but that's only because the left says it. So I'm not going to say that.
Department of Education and move them under a government accountability office because the states need to control what's being taught in the classrooms.
All right, so the actual formal question, since, you know, so it would be name one you want to abolish, why, and, well, why. We'll just stick with why. We're doing 3 minutes at the moment, and we may start speeding that up. So I'll start with you since you just go down the line because we all got favorites.
And we were referencing to what we would like to abolish, pretty much.
Correct. Yep. Name one ABC that you'd like to abolish and why.
Yeah, the Department of Education needs to be put back down towards the states and their control with all the wokeism that's going on in our school system. And we don't need the federal government deciding what's best for our own states and local communities. I'd like to take the Department of Education at the federal level, just move it more under a oversight of just reporting of what's going on. No actual control of instruction from the federal level. Let each state and local community decide what's best to developing the young minds that we have going through our educational system. So I would limit and possibly work to abolish it, the Department of Education.
And I think we got a good handle on the question, so I'm just going to let you guys move down the road.
Oh, you took mine, Chris. It's okay. I think I want to work to abolish most of the wildlife regulatory agencies. They come in and all they do is they limit fishermen's rights. And they come in, they limit hunters' rights. They would just want to say you can only fish X amount of fish a day. You want to hunt X amount of deer, cattle a day, everything like that. There's no point. We live in a great country. There's plenty of enough for everybody. I would abolish that.
I would say the Environmental Protection Agency. That has always been an absolute disaster. What they can do from taking your houses, you know, things coming into eminent domain and everything like that, it is an agency that absolutely has to go. If they can start regulating, you know, for your houses and properties and everything, they can literally come for everything. The Green New Deal, what the Democrats want to do and everything, they all operate through that agency. can't have certain carbon emissions, can't have have your house by a lake or anything like that. If they want to start building it, they can come there and take your house and everything. The Environmental Protection Agency is an absolute disaster, and that is one thing that absolutely needs to be repealed.
Like I said, the IRS, because I believe in fair tax, we have been taxed enough. So that is why I want the IRS to be audited, and I would put the bill to audit the IRS and get into fair tax to drop the rate to businesses as well as individuals, so we can get more money into our pockets and also avoid sending money to Ukraine. Thank you.
Yes, as I shouted, the Federal Reserve. I think that the Federal Reserve, and it sounds like which I agree with all of those agencies that need to be closed, but I think the Federal Reserve should be number one. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that chart. The Federal Reserve was established in 1913. Have you ever seen the chart of the U.S. dollar, the value of the dollar? And it's just like straight up and lost. The value of the dollar has been lost like 90% since 1913. And that is, all comes from the Federal Reserve and the fact that we just print. Modern monetary theory is what, MMT. When Nixon took us off the gold standard, that was arguably one of the worst, in my opinion, the worst decisions, the worst financial decisions that was ever done in the United States, because we removed ourselves from a hard physical asset-backed currency and just allowed the Federal Reserve, free roam to print as much as they like. And during COVID, and there's been many examples in 2008, the dot-com bubble. And COVID was the worst. From 2019 until 2021, into 2021, beginning of 2022, 40% of every dollar in circulation was printed. 40%. So the amount of money that's injected into our system is, again, it's just, the numbers are mind-boggling. And that is that's how we're sending all of this money to Ukraine, and all of these crazy, crazy spending bills and continuing resolutions. We're $34 trillion in debt. 34 in debt. And we have a bunch of loans that are coming due. So I think right now the number is we're taking on roughly $250 billion in debt every quarter. So we're looking at least $1 trillion, north of $1 trillion in debt every year. And this all comes back to the Federal Reserve. It's a private institution. They call it the Federal Reserve, but it is not a government organization. The board is made up of private individual banks like J.P. Morgan, I believe Credit Suisse is on there, these large banks. And that is the money issue all starts and ends at the Federal Reserve. So we should abolish it. Thank you.
To follow up almost on the last answer we heard about the Federal Reserve, I wanted to ask a question about the national debt. So as of February 1st, 2024, the U.S. national debt has reached $34.2 trillion. That's over $101,000 for every person living in the United States. The federal deficit in 2023 was $1.7 trillion. What is your plan to eliminate the deficit, address the national debt, and return the United States government to a sound financial basis? Mr. Dellinger.
All right. So I kind of stated this once before in a previous answer, but I think the way to do this is single subject spending bills, where, again, every dollar that is allocated for every organization needs to be approved and voted on by a majority. And we also need congressional audits so that when those single subject bills are passed, if they are passed, we are then able to track every dollar that is allocated to those said organizations and that they are being used wisely, that they're being used wisely so that we know where everything is. We try to cut down as much of the fraud and waste as possible. And I think that's the way to do it. Thank you.
Okay, and the question is, what is your plan to eliminate the deficit, address the national debt, and return the United States government to a sound financial basis?
We need to stop sending money to Ukraine, one. We need to stop funding the refugee programs that people, when they come into the U.S., start receiving benefits without even working. We have homeless in our streets. We have veterans in our streets, and they don't receive these benefits. Why are we, the government, giving these benefits to these people? That's the refugees. We need to stop that. Also, we need to have a system where we can check how many people who are illegally here are receiving benefits too. That's a lot of pork that they are sending to finance the new voters. Also, we need to check on programs like Senator Paul said, that they were checking pets programs and other things like financing Chris Brown and other rappers because they were going bankrupt. Why is the government financing those people instead of we, the people, the regular people? So that's basically pork. And we need to be conservative. That's what we are. We need to stop spending money that we don't have. We cannot send money to countries that hate America. We cannot send money to countries that they will yell out loud, "Death to America." That's how we can control. That's my answer. Thank you.
Okay, and once again, the question is, what is your plan to eliminate the deficit, address the national debt, and return the United States government to a sound financial basis?
So this here is right here in my department. I'm an accountant. Best way to do this, lower your taxes. I have a very special plan. Reduce all your personal taxes by about a 5 to 6% bracket. We have seen so much waste here in government spending and everything. Senator Rand Paul just about 2 months ago during Christmas time, he did his end of the year report. And we have the Department of Defense lost or couldn't account for about $900 billion. That's already close to about $1 trillion right there. My tax plan will divert those funds and instead give that back to the people. 5 to 6% reduction in all personal taxes, that'll be about $1 trillion the government does not have. The best way to do that, give that back there to the people. When the government does not have any money to operate on, they will only put it to essential services, and those are specifically outlined in Article 1, Section 7 and Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution for funding courts, the post offices, small pieces of committees in Congress and everything like that. We do not need all this money that's been coming here, and the money that has been coming is being funded and funneled to all these bureaucratic systems, such as the EPA, the IRS, Department of Education, Federal Reserve, Department of Justice, all those things. We do not need it. Best way to do it, cut the government out there at its sources, and that's by lowering all your taxes. It brings money back to the people. With less taxes means less government, and that only means more rights for all of us. That's the answer for that.
Okay, and the question is, what is your plan to eliminate the deficit, address the national debt, and return the United States government to a sound financial basis?
So I'm a Gen Zer who spends like he's from the silent generation. Namely, I'm extremely fiscally conservative myself. It's something my parents instilled in me from a very young age. We did not have a lot of money. I certainly had to make all of my money growing up and selling books. Not an easy industry, but my first book, An Inconvenient Minority, became a bestseller. But the point is, I kind of marry the best of both worlds. And I talk to voters, and they literally ask me this question all the time. Well, one of the first things that you can do is, in every business, there's about 10% of a business's expenses that are often wasted to fraud. I know this because my dad was head of fraud at a big bank. And he estimates in most businesses, they lose about 10% of their costs to fraud. And how do you manage fraud? It's hard because you need really smart people, capable people who are able to manage fraud and to lower costs. But if you hire the best people doing that, then you can significantly reduce a company's expenses. So you have to actually recruit the best fraud trackers and cost cutters in America to the government. And I think that that's something that we have to do. That's something that I can do because people respect my background fighting for meritocracy. And I do plan on rewarding the best and the brightest in government. There's no doubt, because that will save us money. One of the second things that you can do is that you can cut a lot of, you have to have punishment mechanisms in our federal government. So if a child misbehaves in the education system, what do? Detention. Sometimes you suspend him from class. If our departments misbehave, what do? We give them a raise. You know, you have to have somebody with the mentality of cost cutting.
Yeah, and I think
that's what
time.
I do. All right, that's what I did with my nonprofit. That's what I'll do for you.
Okay, and the question is, what is your plan to eliminate the deficit, address the national debt, and return the United States government to a sound financial basis?
I'm working class. Everything that's in my account that I earn, if I can't spend more than what I have. And that's what our government needs to get back towards. We need to focus on what's our priorities in this country and what needs to be funded. I grew up here in North Carolina. North Carolina has in their constitution to have a balanced budget. I would like to have an amendment to our constitution at the federal level saying we have to have a balanced budget. If we don't got it, we don't spend it. Since day one, I've never wanted to send money to Ukraine. We never should have done it because I don't work daily to fund other countries' payrolls and retirement accounts. We've got people here that need their Social Security paid, their disability. I don't want to cut that. I don't want to raise the age to draw Social Security because I want to look after the people here, the military members here, the things like that. So if we haven't got it, we don't spend it. We focus on the infrastructure of our country and values and stop fighting wars that have nothing to do with us. We spend on services here.
All right, we've talked about ending the Fed and also about restraining our spending, so I guess I'm going to continue with the whole currency war aspect and monetary policy. So the U.S. House not only holds the purse strings, it can also change laws affecting our currency and monetary policies. How will you help defend Americans in this currency war?
I don't like to, being in IT from before, I always look at digital currencies and like your debit cards and everything that's digital. I think cash is king. I don't want to do away with the printing of cash and being able to use cash throughout our country. I like for all of our government services to be able to make sure they accept cash. So if you want to go down and pay your bill, your traffic ticket at the court, they need to accept cash. So from a house standpoint and regulation, cash is king. I don't want to get rid of any, go to a complete digital market. And that would be my protection of currency and protecting the cash flow within America.
All right, thank you. We'll go down the line. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to, and we'll just go straight down the line. It'll be easy.
We have to understand that America's best weapon is the fact that our dollar is the default trade currency of the world. We are the default trade currency of the world. Other countries rely on us. That is one of the reasons why we are able to print so much debt. It's wrong that we do so, but that is one of the reasons why we're able to do that, is because other countries would easily, gladly buy it up. China has a whole bunch of our debt, trillions of our debt. So we have to protect our currency. It's time to defend our currency. I am not a Vladimir Putin fan, but he said to Tucker Carlson something that I thought was the truth, which is that you guys print so much money, that you're going to lose your position as the default currency of the world. And we are. If we continue to print more and more money, we are going to lose our position. And then our biggest asset in the currency war, our dollar, is going to cease to exist. And when that happens, that's when American decline in power as the superpower, the great superpower of the world, is going to be in free fall. So we have to protect our currency, we have to stop printing money, and we have to make sure that it is fair, that other countries view it as fair, that it is fairly protected, unlike the Chinese. This is why we never buy any Chinese currency.
Can you get a repeat of the question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the U.S. House not only holds the purse strings, it can also change laws affecting our currency and monetary policies. How will you help defend Americans in the currency war?
So going back to, once again, lowering all your taxes. When we had President Trump in office, he did the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's when I first started saying that everybody was getting their money back, because I help people with their tax works and everything. But under President Trump, we had the strongest American dollar. We were the #1 in almost everything, from stock markets to the dollar to everything to low goods and everything. And it all revolves around one issue, and that is lowering your taxes. When people have more money in their pockets, they do more spending. When they do more spending, it comes all around and it makes our dollar stronger. It gets circulated to all businesses, and when we keep it in our country, it stays there. Bringing our jobs back here, that was another major thing as well also. Give tax breaks to companies as well. We want them to do their business here. When we start, sending our countries overseas and everything, that only makes our dollar less stronger and makes it weaker. We can see what happened under Clinton with NAFTA and everything. It was an absolute disaster. So bringing jobs back here, bringing our lower taxes, that brings the power to the people and makes our country strong and makes our dollar strong. That's the answer.
So going back with what Sid said, when I ran against David Price, I always said that we need to bring the jobs back to America. By bringing the jobs back to America, we can help our currency to stay stronger. We don't have to ship our jobs to China or any other world. Sadly, after the interview with Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin, he put the fear in the Americans by saying the dollar will go in decline. That's a fear mongering. If we send Donald Trump back to the office, we will come back to the stronger economy. Why we are suffering this is because the election was stolen on 2020. That's how we are going to be in decline if we re-elect Joe Biden to that, and if we are sending rhinos in Congress. That's why when you send Donald Trump and you send me to Congress to represent you, I'm going to fight for you to lower your taxes, bring jobs back to America, and get a better economy for our currency. Thank you.
I think the way to defend our currency, this kind of at the end of the line here, so jumping across a couple of points from a couple different candidates here, I think that the way to protect our currency is to return to a hard, physical-backed asset like gold. We have the petrodollar, but going to what Kenny said in the Tucker Carlson interview, another thing that Putin said was, let me take a step back. So you have the formation of the BRICS organization, right? And I believe it was January 1st, it was within the first week of January, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, South Africa, and Brazil, they all, and several other smaller countries, several in the African continent, joined together. And Saudi Arabia, we have the petrodollar, which was a deal that Bush made with Saudi Arabia, and now they've joined the opposite team, right? They're not really, the petrodollar is in danger, and it is the next closest thing to a gold-backed asset. But if Saudi Arabia decides to accept, which they already have, they're selling oil in the yuan, the U.S. dollar, the dominance will be depleted very quick. And so the Tucker Carlson interview, I believe Putin said that before the Ukraine war started, that they use the U.S. dollar for 80% of their transactions, when they're selling oil and gas across Europe. Now it is 13%. In just 2 years, it's dropped that much, from 80 to 13%. A lot of these nations in this BRICS organization are doing the same thing. They are trying to get away from the U.S. dollar as quickly as possible because of the way that there is no fiscal responsibility in the United States, and they know it and they see it, and we can't continue printing money and sending hundreds of billions of dollars overseas as we are. So we need to return to a hard-backed physical asset and stop spending so much money and sending it overseas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our timekeeper's actually gaveling with a hammer, so just...
Oh, okay. Did I miss you? Sorry.
It's all good. And in keeping with, I was going to slide into the energy independence situation, so we might do reverse order back that way, and you'll be able to build upon that. And anyway, so what does the phrase energy? Let me start over again. What does the phrase energy independence mean to you, and why?
The phrase energy independence, means that we are independent with our, natural resources that we have here in the United States, and we independently can provide enough energy in-house to where we don't have to, buy oil from anywhere else. We have some of the, I think Russia actually, as far as the, underground reserves, they might have beat us by a little bit, but like up in Alaska and out in the Midwest, we have some of the largest, we might have the largest, I know we're either number 1 or 2, oil and gas reserves, and in Texas, in the world. We have plenty of oil and gas, and enough to where we can, as Trump said, drill, baby, drill, and drill here in-house in the United States. And I think the other thing that we need to do is look at nuclear energy again. I think that I'm all for drilling as much as possible and exporting it across the world, selling it to our allies and other countries. But I also think for the United States, we should look at nuclear energy. I think that's going to be the future. I know there was some pretty bad accidents in the past, but over the last 20 and 30 years, my brother worked for Babcock Wilcox. They're a power plant, and he worked on boilers. And the technology that has come in the last 20 and 30 years is incredible. And so, yes, I think, again, energy independence is we can take care of everything in-house. I think we ought to drill everywhere we possibly can for oil and gas for ourselves and to sell it. And I think we should also begin to look at nuclear technologies for power source as well.
Well, energy independence is something that we need to live by. After President Biden closed the XL pipeline, everything went into decline. So we need to reopen that pipeline so we can bring back American jobs into the people, so you can get a better economy in your own house, and the economy for the country is going to improve. Also, we need to look at nuclear energy, solar energy, renewables, but we cannot depend on those only. Like President Trump said, we need to drill so we can start producing our own energy with the fossil fuels. We need to send the fossil congressmen and senators that they are from in DC back home, and that's how we can get a better economy. Thank you.
Energy independence means one thing: America first. Gas heats our home at night. Oil runs our cars. Gas runs the world no matter what. Under President Trump, we were the #1 oil-producing nation on the planet. Gas was at its all-time cheapest. You saw it at $1 and some change, no more than $2 and some change a gallon. Now look at here what Biden has done. It is an absolute disgrace. We have drained more than half of our strategic petroleum reserve. That ought to right there be an impeachable offense right there, because that only benefits one nation, and that, or rather a series of nations, and that's called OPEC. When Biden came into office, we saw gas shoot up now, and now gas is $3 and some change. When we got rid of our strategic petroleum reserves, that only lessened it by a few cents, and now gas is still $3 and some change. That is unacceptable, and it is absolutely ridiculous. When we have to now essentially beg foreign nations for oil, they can control us and our markets, and that only hurts one thing. Not only does it hurt the people, but it hurts our national sovereignty, and it also affects our national security. We need to be drill independent, and what I intend to do on day one of Congress, I intend to impose tariffs and sanctions on foreign nations that want to sell us their oil. We do not need them. Screw OPEC, screw the Middle East, we do not need any of them. We have a gold mine here in Texas, we have a gold mine all here in America. We need to start drilling, and we need to start giving tax breaks to companies that regulate in any type of natural gas. That'll make everything go around, and you will see it happen, that gas will be back to $1 and some change, and then the world will be begging us for their oil. We don't need them, we got America, and being energy independent means being America first.
I'm not running my campaign based on my knowledge of the energy industry, so this is not my hugest issue in terms of my knowledge base. But I did it's funny, when I was in 6th grade, we had a presentation of all of the renewable energy types that we had to defend, and some people chose solar and some people chose wind, and they stuck me with hydroelectric. So I know a little bit about hydroelectric energy, but I do know enough about energy to tell you that while solar and wind are getting better, they're still not nearly the efficiency that oil and gas is. And that's the truth. And that's what I'm going to, that is what I'm going to advocate for on a policy level for you. Any action that the government tries to take to regulate and try to hamstring the oil and gas industry, I'm going to oppose. Any regulation that tries to say you have to build certain solar panels on people's houses, or you have to get X percentage of your energy from wind farms, which kill a ton of birds all the time and produce not nearly the amount of energy with the efficiency as oil and gas, I'm going to oppose. Any legislation, which Biden has already been pushing, to intentionally cut off pipelines or cut off drilling in lands that we own that have oil reserves, I'm going to oppose. Trump, one of his day one priorities was to return energy independence to America from the likes of the Saudis and from the likes of Russia, and I 100% support that agenda.
I agree with Kenny. Anything that the federal government puts its hands on in regards to energy regulation, it kind of like creates a over-regulatory thing in it. increases prices where it should not be. One thing that I've advocated for, and I do not like, is the pushing of EV vehicles and giving tax credits to something that should not ever happen. We should let the market decide, is EV technology for the consumer? Do they want to purchase it? My grandfather retired from the power company, and he always told me, look at the power company, and are their fleet vehicles even running off EVs? No. They're using gas-powered fleet vehicles for all their workers at the local power companies. Me being a truck driver, in 2021, we had a ransomware attack that affected our pipeline for the transport of oil and gas that was coming out of the Gulf of Mexico up through our district in Smithfield and southern Wake County. I was a truck driver sitting outside the terminals trying to get fuel, but we couldn't. We had a spike in gas prices because gas stations could not get fuel. So I'd like to protect the infrastructure and security of those security measures when it comes to an IT perspective, and making sure that each energy department, such as like even our nuclear power plant, Sharon Harris right up the road, is not being hacked by other foreign countries that affect our local energy providers. But like I say, we drill and use our own oil. We focus on getting government out of regulating and providing benefits to certain players over others. Let the free market decide, and we do that. But like I said, my experience in the oil industry is very beneficial as a representative in protecting.
Very awesome questions. I didn't expect all this from these gentlemen. This is really fascinating. I'm really enjoying this. We do have a lot in common with states out west. North Carolina has a lot of, mineral and we have a wealth of materials here and resources in North Carolina. And believe it or not, we've all heard about like the Bureau of Land Management and how they've encroached on, the rights and property rights and otherwise of states out west. But North Carolina has probably the largest, or one of the largest problems in that department, to where the federal government claims control over much of our beautiful landscape here. So I just wanted to emphasize that and then ask you, what would you do as congressman to protect the property rights of our citizens, and especially when it comes to that overreach, but also with the fact that, and this is a complicated question, I'm kind of combining two in my head here, with that type of overreach becomes all sorts of various sorts of overreach. So how if we abolish like the BLM, or Bureau of Land Management on the West Coast, or Department of Interior, how do we then protect the property rights and rights in general of the citizens here, and how would you help support that? Shu raised his hand first. Yeah, my question was clear as mud, so this will be at your discretion, boys.
Well, there's a whole lot of issues surrounding ownership of property. I think one of the biggest hot button issues right now is foreign ownership of American businesses. When China bought a majority stake, and Chinese companies bought a majority stake in some of North Carolinians' pork producers, that set off an alarm on a lot of us. Obviously, China has been buying up a lot of our land, and absolutely no foreign government possession of our land and our property should be allowed. Absolutely none. The problem is when you have Chinese businesses that come from China that are technically private businesses run by Chinese citizens that buy up majority shares of some of our American businesses. That's an issue because you need to understand the relationship that Chinese citizens have with their government. There is a lot of CCP pressure on Chinese citizens to do what the CCP wants. And so we cannot treat these Chinese citizens, even though they're private citizens, we cannot treat them as completely uncompromised. They are potentially compromised by the CCP and whatever agendas that they have. So rest assured, under a Congress, under my discretion, really under your discretion, because I'm representing you, we will err on the conservative side of things, where we'll have to do really strict background checks on any Chinese citizen that tries to buy up majority shares in some of our most important assets.
Yeah, and Sharma had his hand up next. You have that?
So coming here to our property rights, yes, I completely agree with Kenny on this. We cannot have foreign nations buying our land because I truly believe that that's us giving up a piece of our land, which is American sovereignty. So what I intend to do on day one of Congress and file a bill saying that no foreign nation, company, anything like that can buy any of our lands. Not only that, we also have the problem also with the government. Earlier I said the Environmental Protection Agency, they can also try to seize your land, whether it's through either eminent domain, whether it's for nature aspects such as from CO2 or being built by a lake. Those stuff are completely unacceptable because it's just really two sides of the same coin. We also have to look at, what's happening here domestically as well. Of course, foreign nations are a threat, but also corruption in government from bureaucracies are also a major threat as well. And that's definitely coming into the Environmental Protection Agency. Like I said, with eminent domain, that is a problem. Luckily, our Supreme Court has been on the side of the people on this one issue. And there was a very recent case where, one couple had their property by a lake. And the Environmental Protection Agency started giving them fines of several $100,000. So they said, they filed a lawsuit. Supreme Court sided with the people saying that no, the EPA cannot impose any of these fines. They cannot do anything. They need to stop, and they're allowed to keep their house and everything. So property rights are definitely coming back. But what the family faced, though, was the problem of lawyer fees and just the immense court battles and costs. So what I intend to do is to provide funding and lawyer fees for any family that has to deal with these regulation agencies such as the Environmental Protection Agency. Not only that, our Supreme Court has been doing good, and sooner or later they're being chipped away. But definitely giving them funding for lawyer fees and everything like that, that is one thing to do because the Environmental Protection Agency is one of the most disastrous agencies. They're really just like China and everybody else who wants to come out there. So definitely getting rid of that and making people have the funds to fight, that is one thing. But our Supreme Court is definitely on their side. They engage in a lawsuit, they'll be there to win 100%. And that's all thanks to President Trump.
All right, looks like.
So yes, this clear as mud question. I think federal agencies like the EPA, we need to strip a lot of their power. And as far as land ownership goes, I think the way that we can resolve that is by forming state and local organizations that sort of have the same authority as the EPA. That way, if there is an issue of eminent domain or something like that, number one, you have somebody who actually lives there that's working with you, not somebody who lives halfway across the country and they could care less about your property. But I think that with these local organizations, it really should come down to if you own the land and the government wants it and you don't want to sell it, it's too bad, right? It's your land, it's your property, it's your right to own that land. I do think that, again, working with local we have state parks, right? I mean, everybody loves state parks. I think that they're pretty well maintained here in the state of North Carolina. So I think when we get rid of, these large federal organizations, there's going to be a big gap, of who's going to kind of manage what. And I think that all comes down to, again, state and local organizations and, a kind of a joint venture between states. And I think that was the majority of the question. So, yeah, all right. Thank you.
Sounds good to me.
So can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question again?
I'll
To
try. Yeah, right. So I'll try to make it a little, shorter. The Western states have banded together because of the issues they've had with BLM and, again, Bureau of Land Management for those out west. So with that sort of relationship, strangely enough, North Carolina is probably the state with the largest federally controlled land on the eastern seaboard. And how would you defend North Carolinians and our property rights? That was the base question. But all the things that have been mentioned are of great relevance. So however you would like to answer the question, build upon or whatnot, you have.
Well, that would be going back to what I've said all night, all afternoon. The elite, they are trying to take over. If we don't protect the people who own the land, they will take over. Like the example that Kenny mentioned, the Chinese government, they are buying our land here in North Carolina. They are buying our businesses so they can control. If the Chinese government is getting into the land that we own as private citizens, imagine what they can do if they get in control of our members of Congress, our members of the Senate, and the government. So we need to protect our lands by having a good, the Secretary of Agriculture here in North Carolina, he wants to protect farmers. And that's something that we need to take it to a national level to protect our farmers from the overreach of the government as well as entities that they are coming from outside of the United States. That's how we do it.
Did everyone get a chance to answer? Okay, awesome. I didn't want to miss anybody.
I'm actually going to probably go off topic with this, but related to your property rights, because you said it was federal land, which is not owned by the people. That's the land that's owned by the federal government, like national parks and stuff like that. So it's kind of like it's a two-part question, actually. But what I want to say is I saw a Facebook post by your sheriff here in Lee County talking about property rights. His deputies were chasing down a really bad dude, according to his Facebook post. He broke into a person's house, the person that they were chasing, the criminal, and that person that owned the home had a weapon to protect their home. So what I would say is when you own land, when you own property, you have the right to be your own first responder and fight back. I'm an advocate for the Second Amendment, and if somebody comes on your property and wants to do harm to you, if you should be able to defend yourself. So when it comes down to having a wonderful sheriff that's in this county that supports the Second Amendment, and I'm going to be a congressman that's going to support your right to defend yourself, because the police will show up, but only after the criminal has already started to take action. So you have the right to be your first responder. You have the right to protect your own land.
They saved me from my money question. That was great. I'm going to turn it back over to Horn. He probably has a more succinct question to ask.
Sorry, do you want to say something? What? So we are going to do one last question before closing statements. So. Okay, so
Ask the question.
yeah.
Well, no,
So
that's the right of the moderator to give an approval, not the candidate.
yeah.
The moderator has the power to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, in this case, we've been here for a couple hours. We did get a late start, so I think in this situation, I'd rather just ask this final question because the question I have is one that I consider. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Sorry, people.
No, you're good.
Because this question is a question that I consider very important, though it's not perhaps often addressed explicitly. So the question is, you're running to represent District 13 citizens at the federal level. What is your understanding of federalism, the relationship between citizens, the North Carolina government, and the United States government, and how does that influence which policies and issues you'll work to address in the House of Representatives? Yes, Mr. Sharma.
The principles of federalism for a congressman is explicitly stated in Article 1, Section 7 and Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. Now, of course, I represent North Carolina, our state, and our people on a federal basis. So my duty as a congressman is to listen to all of y'all. Whatever you say and whatever you guys want as law, I must do that. That is my job as a congressman. I'm not out to go here on my own personal agenda. Now, of course, it has to remain constitutional, of course, within the purviews of Article 1, Section 7 and Article 1, Section 8. But other than that, though, making sure that your voices are heard and your concerns are addressed, that is my job to bring that to Congress for federal legislation on pretty much a wide range of issues that we have going on. So pretty much in a nutshell, I'm here to serve you guys, and that is the congressman's true job.
Okay. What is your understanding of federalism, and how will that influence which policies and issues you will work to address in the House of Representatives?
To me, the most important issues that is in the federal government's purview to address are immigration. That is a federal issue outlined in the Constitution. Relationships with foreign powers, absolutely. Its own administration, so cutting waste, cutting bureaucracy, those are key parts of my platform as one of the leading anti-woke activists in the country. And then also to be a voice for North Carolina's concerns at the federal level. So I'll give you an example. I was at a Lee County School Board meeting this Tuesday, and I expressed at Lee County one of the concern that illegal immigrants are coming into the school system and they have to be served educationally, and they're labeled as ESL students, but we don't know what percentage of the ESL students are actually coming from illegal immigrant backgrounds and which ones are coming from legal immigrant backgrounds. And you know what I found out? I found out that federal law prohibits the schools, even if they wanted to, from asking the student or the parent if they come from an illegal immigrant background. It's a non-solicitation policy. It was outlined in the Supreme Court decision in 1987. That's what I found out. And so I realized that is something that if I get elected as a congressman, would have to change. That's the nitty-gritty. That's the detail that you want from a congressman. Somebody who's willing to play the role of, I'm going to ask the right questions and I'm going to do what I can at the federal level to make sure that you at the state level can get your job done.
Yeah. Mr. Von Lohr.
Thank you. So basically, when you send me to Congress, I will hear what's your need, what your issues, your priorities, and I will vote on your behalf, my district and my conscience. We cannot send someone who has not been in our district or our state for more than 10 years, at least to have a grasping of understanding of what we the people need. You cannot come to our state and tell you, I know more than you do. It's the other way around. You have the issues, you have the problems, you tell your congressman what you need, not the other way around. The congressmen, the senators, they are not kings. They are public servants. No person going for the first time into Congress have experience, but they do have the guts to stand up for we, the people, to fight for them, our district. They will learn how to be corrupt, and they will learn how to be honest. And we, like I said before, we need to go back to the essentials that make our nation great. Represent we the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to go ahead, or you want me to reread the question?
Reread it, just.
Okay, so basically the question is, what is your understanding of federalism and how that influence which policies and issues you will work to address in the House of Representatives?
I think I view this as like a middleman, right? You need to know a little bit about a whole lot because I think as Kenny said, you're going to be we would represent a specific district within our state, so that's very local, but then you also deal with foreign leaders, foreign nations, and it is the federal government, so the United States as a whole. So you really need to be able to, again, know a little bit about a whole lot, and I think that means that you should work with, of course, your constituents and listen to them at the very local level. I think we should work a lot more with the state and local representatives, the state governments and things like that. And then again, we just kind of take this information that we receive from our local level and send it back up to the federal level, the executive branch. So again, we are kind of the middleman, and I think that, just again, kind of common sense, like you work with the local, state, and government and your constituents, and you take that information back up to Congress, and that is how, you produce and sign bills that represent what your constituents want. So, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Baker.
In regards to the federal government and federalism, the federal government handles issues that the states cannot handle themselves, such as security from a nation's standpoint. That's why we have military. We have immigration control, try to control immigration with things that are not taking priority in this Biden administration. See, I've lived in this district for a long time, and I've been through hurricanes, Hurricane Fran, Hurricane Floyd. We had a tornado that hit the lows here in Sanford several years back. So whenever a disaster comes that the state cannot handle, it's good to have somebody up there that's from this district, that's from this community, that can relate with different organizations that are at the federal level, such as FEMA, to get help back to the community that's here that the state cannot provide service to. Because what I'm running for this office is to help people. Make sure people are secure and safe. Make sure that in case a disaster happens, an attack happens, they have housing, they're able to have food, things like that. Because that's what the Lord has us do, is help our neighbors. And being a servant in Washington is my way of paying it forward back to the people that I grew up with around here and being able to make those connections from the federal level and helping different states that are not able to provide those services back to you.
Okay, thank you. And now we will be moving on to our closing statements. I think we are going to do 4 minutes apiece for the closing statements. So if any of you would like to volunteer to start that off, or we can just go down the line. Yeah, let's start with Mr. Dellinger and go down the line.
So I think I out of all of the issues that we've talked about this evening, kind of going back to my opening, I think that, and I would assume it sounded like this was the common theme amongst most of all of the candidates that are here, is corruption, and it is fighting a unelected and elected bureaucratic and tyrannical elite class that has a death grip across all parts and organizations of our government. I think that everybody in this room and everybody who is watching, we are all very aware of the issues that are in front of us. The issues, although some of them can be very complex, and we might disagree on exactly how to resolve the issues, we're still aware of the issues, and I think that if we all got together, just us regular people, we could probably resolve a lot of the issues, pretty quick. So, and clearly that's because we want to resolve the issues, and that goes back to the corruption. I think that us, the people, see the issues because we live with it and deal with it every day, and we want these issues resolved. But as Steve has said, we send these rich men, up to Richmond, and they don't care, and they don't see the issues. They spend most of their time up in D.C. and not back in their districts. And one of the things that I have heard quite a good bit is when you try to the switchboards, when you try to call into Congress, they'll literally just shut down the switchboards, so you can't even call representatives to Congress. So they don't care, is really the truth. And dare I even say it, we've really been abandoned in a lot of ways. And so again, yes, I think fighting corruption and just using common sense and rationality for a lot of these issues, and working together with people who are actually on the ground and understand the issues and live with them and deal with them on a daily basis is going to be the way that we resolve most of our problems. So again, my name is Marcus Dellinger, U.S. House of Representatives, District 13. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank the moderators. They have done a great job. You, the people who came on a Saturday afternoon. And also we need to thank the sponsors, Latinos for Trump, and also the Republican National Hispanic Assembly of North Carolina. Without them, we wouldn't have these fine gentlemen here telling you what we believe. The other people that didn't show up, you can find them because they don't allow me to say their names, But yes, I am the most outspoken because I am one of the upset Americans, because the rich men that are north of Richmond for the last 5 decades, they forgot about us. I felt this for 25 years. If I am upset, I know you are upset. And like I said before, I am running not because of me, I am running because of my children, which are my legacy. And I want to protect your legacy, your children, your grandchildren, by listening to you, putting America first, protecting our citizens from the invasion in our southern border. We didn't talk about this today. I guess some of the questions that they were sent to the moderators, it was not about the border. But when a candidate comes to you and tell you they will protect the border, that's a lie. The only person who can protect that border is President Trump by an executive order that he already put in place. If he does that when he becomes a president again, then we can protect and close that border. We need to bring back manufacturing jobs for our people. We need to reduce the taxes. And we need to reopen the XL pipeline that it will give more jobs to the American people. That's pretty much my platform, not now. And the term limits. We need to end those career politicians up there And like I said before, and I said it again, we need to stop sending rich men to north of Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just coming here to closing statements, I'm gonna make mine just short and simple. I'd like to thank you all for coming out here. You guys coming out here means the absolute world to me, because I know truly our countries will always be fine because people like you care. I'd like to thank the host, Latinos for Trump, the RNHA. They did an amazing job organizing this entire event. I'd like to thank both of our two moderators. They've done a great job with questions and everything, and it's pretty much everything's laid out for you guys. You guys get to know now finally where we stand on all these issues. And that's the heart of this entire debate, so that you know our positions. And I'd like to thank each and every candidate for coming out here. You guys didn't have to, but you guys wanted to, because you guys care as well. And I have to say, I respect each and every one of you guys now. We may have reasonable discourse and everything, but at the end of the day, we all chose to run because we love our country. And that's what truly means the most to me all, that I know that we'll all be in a fine position. We will also be fine because of people like you. You guys care. And no matter what happens on March the 5th, I believe you guys will make the right decision because we have truly narrowed it down here. You guys get to hear all of our solutions. I believe you guys will all make the right choice. Without further ado, I'd like to thank you all for coming here once more, and I'd like to thank you all for affording us the time to speak in this debate. Thank you guys very much. God bless.
Thank you. Yep, Mr. Shu.
As the leading activist fighting and winning the Harvard and UNC affirmative action case, as the president of Color Us United, my nonprofit that has fought CRT and woke policies across America, I've had my fair share of battles. And in Congress, there will be even more battles. But it is absolutely essential that you choose somebody who is battle ready, because the left is not sleeping. I know that. I have experience with that. I fought it. I've won against them. And I'm not going to sleep for you. That's why I've worked so hard for your vote. That's why I'm getting so much momentum. That's why people see what I am and what I believe despite my youth. And they see that I can be their advocate. And that's why we're going to win on Election Day. Kenny Shu for Congress. Imagine that. And you will have somebody in Washington who will be your firm advocate. You want to elect somebody who isn't timid, who has his heart set on God, but who is smart, who is analytical, who can process your fears, your hopes, your dreams, and can turn it into reasonable, actionable policy. And vote for somebody who knows that this is a job. You see, I hear some candidates saying they won't take a salary. I will take a salary. You know why? Because this is a job. And in a job, you take a salary. And people who say they won't take a salary in Congress are not treating this, do not have the mindset of this being a job. What is my job? My job is to interact with you. My job is to process what you care about. My job is to process the relationship between federal and state. My job is to secure your future and your children's future. And my job is to lead, is to be an inspiration for you and your kids. I treat that job seriously. I have the time, I have the temerity, and I have the wherewithal to get that job done for you. And I look forward to winning your vote on March 5th. Thank you very much.
Like I say, thank y'all for coming out. Thank you for attending virtually online, and thank you to the moderators and other candidates that actually invited me to this event. Like I say, I was working earlier today, and made it here a little bit late. That's why I'm still wearing my uniform from earlier. But the reason I'm running is for the working class, for you. We work day and night, day or night. We put money aside, and we do not want our money going to other countries. We want to make sure that we have protection. We have a retirement. And being a blue-collar person myself, I've got to protect and make sure that that's going to be there as well. I'm from this district, and you always protect your homeland. You protect those who protect you. Something I didn't bring up earlier tonight is I come from a family of, you're either a truck driver or your family members are in the military. So I would want to protect my own family, my own people that I work with, because I'm blue collar. So sending a person up there that's the common man is probably what our country needs most right now. We don't need politicians. I'm not a politician, never have been. Like I say, I've worked for the state of North Carolina, and when I was working for the state of North Carolina, you're a servant to the people. And that's what I plan to do is if you elect me in the primary and hopefully win the general election, because this is not going to be an easy fight like the media says this is a Republican district. There is a path that a Democrat can take District 13. I've driven it. I've been around North Carolina long enough that a Democrat can win this district if the wrong candidate is selected. I'm a working class. I can appeal to the most unaffiliated voters, being working class, and I will protect you. My name is Baker. I'm from here. I hope you vote for me. Like I say it 3 times like you say on a CB radio. Baker, Baker, Baker. So vote for me.
Okay, thank you. Close it out.
All right, thank you guys for coming out, and this was an absolute blast. Actually, very unique with how this debate came about, and I'm really thankful for the co-host and for you guys coming out. And Lee County doesn't get a lot of attention normally, and so it's a very rare and beautiful honor and privilege to be able to be the host county for the first debate, out of the 2, and I'm glad we got to bring a little bit of the MAGA America First Friday, and show people that they're human beings, and we need to interact as human beings and learn how to people again, especially after COVID. So don't be shy about approaching a public official, elected official, a candidate, because ultimately they work for you, number one, and number 2, they're just human beings. We don't need to put them on pedestals. That's how we end up with really bad situations. But anyways, thank you guys so much for being here, and you had something.
Yes, I need to respond to what Kenny said about not taking a salary.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm sorry.
So, when you are in public service, of course you get a salary. But when you are committed to your district and you know that $176,000 as a congressman, you don't need all that money. When I said that I would donate part of my salary to the poorest school in my district, it's because I am because I can see the other kids that they are not getting the education that they need. I'm not saying in a bad way. I am saying that we need to give to. If he is taking this job as a regular job, then he is not a person that needs to be sent to Congress. He can continue to be the CEO of his company, his activism. This is a public service. We are running for public servants, and that's a big difference.
All right, thank you. Part of the rules that we had agreed on was if someone was called out in such a way and they wanted to respond, they would have the ability to do so. So thank you for reminding me, Mr. Von Lohr, and because that's really important. So anyways, again, thank you guys. You guys are great. And Ed Sosa, would you like to say a few words in closing? All right, 30 seconds. So we're not going to keep time on you. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I appreciate all the candidates here. You did a great job. It doesn't mean just talk to the people so you get to know who they are, how they think. Thank you for the moderators. Thank you all of you to be here tonight. And we're going to have the second debate will be in Granville County at the Expo Center in Oxford, North Carolina. So I know you're going to be far away, but I hope the people from the Granville County be there. Thank you and have a good night. Take care.